everybody, welcome back to Sprueverse, my scale model universe. People of Earth, welcome to another update of the 8th Doctor's Tardis console build. And this is such fun and a labor of love, I cannot tell you. It's been such a delight to sort of be working on this and playing with this, and I can't thank the great Jeff Fink, Steve Williams, and of course Jamie Bate for figuring all of this out, designing it, and cutting all of the various different MDF pieces and making sure I was covered every which way from Sunday. Just a great group of guys. And so what I wanted to do was just give you another update and let you know where we are on this build. Now I've assembled it very roughly here. One wrong move and the whole thing collapses, but I think it's starting to look really, really fun. Let me get PhilCam up and running here so that we can get up close and personal. Now, what I've been doing, obviously, is I've been doing a lot of construction of the MDF. All these pieces are MDF, and the inside struts are all PLA prints. And then, of course, on the inside, as you know, we have our wonderful base, and then, of course, the plinth that the console sits on. You've got the console base itself, and then, of course, as we look here, you can see, whoa, there we go. The time rotor has sort of is roughly in place. There's a Lexan tube here, and then the time rotor continues up, and of course you have this wonderful seal of Rassilon on the top. So really just a really great space to play around with, and you know, I would have to say from the very beginning, one of the things that it's always sort of quintessential, and it's been a great learning curve for me, is, you know, making sure that everything is as it should be, dry fitting everything, getting it all dialed in, and then sort of starting to figure out where your issues are. The fit on this has been extraordinary. Where I fell down was this base has a cap under it, and I had printed my top in resin and my base, underneath base, in PLA, and the two didn't quite match up. I had them flush, and of course nothing was seating, so I called Jeff and I said, "Jeff, nothing's working," and he said, "No, it works." Basically, you know, he's such a gentleman, but what he helped me understand was that there's a real crucial measurement to all of this. So in fact, the underneath plate for this base had to be pushed up into the console table itself, almost 4 mil. And of course, once I had done that, everything seated relatively well. I've still got a couple of little tweakies I have to do. I'm not 100%, but then I'm not 100% level either, so I'm working on all of that. One of my sort of big challenges, obviously, was to start getting the paint figured out. I've started to work with, as you know, my Rust-Oleum, and I've been playing with some other, some grays and some coppers and some chromes and some gunmetals, and I'm really starting to dial it in. I'm really starting to like this look, and it reminds me that, of course, on the set, everything was built out of, for the most part, MDF. Some parts were vacuum formed, and some parts were built from casts. You know, we cast a lot of things in those days. I mean, and I say in those days, I mean, my God, you know, it's over 25 years. Technology has come such a long way since then. But one of the things I always remember is trying to get the paint department to figure out how to make MDF look like metal. Boy, did they do an amazing job. I mean, obviously the MDF on the console table was grained with paint. The columns, the structural columns themselves, were all textured. They start with spackle, for drywall paste, drywall spackle. They started with that, got that everywhere, and then they went to town on it with several base coats, and then a sponge effect finished it off, and then this incredible thing that they would do where they would we use a spray bottle. Now, I don't know what was in the spray bottle, whether it was water, vinegar, I don't know. But the last the effect was this spackling effect with the brushes, and then they sprayed that, and they got some rusticles and some running and stuff like that. It was a lot of work to get this to look how it looks. And unfortunately, I know when everybody does a frame grab, everybody's trying to figure out, is it gray, is it green, is it blue, is it yellow? Impossible to do, guys, honestly, because of all the gelled lighting. And so what I'm going to try and do is give you my best recollection of what things did look like. Now, I do want to pull out my fill cam here again one more time, just to show you that I'm starting to play with wood grain on the surface of this resin, and I'm really happy with that. I think it's coming together really nicely. I'm starting to get a really nice effect with that. So a lot of the fun of this is obviously the painting and the weathering, and that's just when I'm in heaven. So lots of work to do here. We're almost dialed in terms of how these things are seated. I've got to just make sure this is all perfectly flush. I can see that I've got some leveling issues, but that's just some ticky-tack stuff with making sure everything is perfectly smooth, sanded. But it was fun to put some paint on this just to sort of get an idea of what it might look like. Now I've got to sort of go back through it, see where I need to perhaps do some sanding, do some patching, and just sort of making it all come together. But for the most part, I've really enjoyed playing with the various different colors. Now, so that in essence is the structure of all of this. Now we've got to figure out how to light it. And that's when I went to my good friend Randy Newbert over at Voodoo Effects. If you don't know Voodoo Effects, you need to go check him out. First-class human being. He's so incredibly helpful, and he will work with you on your project. Happy to come up with a specialized Arduino board for you, special lighting effects, you name it, he can do it. There's only a few guys like that that I know of course, Randy being one, and Tenor Controls, Ralph Tataglia being the other, but equally as helpful. But Randy's become a really good friend, and I just really love his product. So what I needed Randy to do was come up with a time rotor effect for me, which he has done, and I demonstrated that on my Instagram account @Sprueverse, so you can go check that out. I am going to talk a little bit about the lighting, but not so much, because I'm going to do an entire episode dedicated to just figuring out how to light up this board. Now, curiously enough, when you look at production stills as I remember it, there wasn't a tremendous amount of light going on this board. A lot of the things that Richard Hudolin and his team put on this console to keep it a little steampunk and to keep it Victorian, which is what I asked him to do, that sort of timelessness, was to go and find a bunch of really old fun things. I do have a reference photo here, or a reference page, that comes with the console. It comes with this console kit, as it were. If you do want to build this, Partworks Upgrades has the files. You can build this just as I'm building it, except for the except for the laser cut MDF pieces. Those files do not come with this, but you can get the files to print the these in resin or PLA if you choose. But one of the things that I'm looking at now as I'm recalling it is we had an old key computer for an adding computer. We had a couple of old radio dials that I can see. We had some very interesting decorative motifs in brass that were most likely that came from lamps, and then a lot of the knobs and the switches that I'm looking at were all sort of mechanical devices. They weren't lit. So we do have a few things. There are 3 electrical grade from the old power lines. They were glass conductor caps. There were 3 of those. And then I can see 2 or 3 areas where we had some switches and some blinkies. So I'm going to try and replicate this as best as I can. I've also gone ahead and I have built the scanner. Here it is. And I've been having, there it is. I've been having a lot of fun with this, trying to sort of figure this out. And anyway, I've got this lit, so that's sort of ready to go, and that's going to hang over on this side. I've got a little bit of painting to do on it, but other than that, it is ready to go. So I wanted to talk just briefly about some of the lighting strategies. So bear with me here for a second as I delicately kind of remove these pieces here and try not to make a fool of myself on camera, because I've learned how to do that quite well. But essentially what I wanted to do was sort of just carefully deconstruct this and get this out of the way. Normally I suppose we could say I'll be right back and then it would be magically all done. But that's not our style here. We're going to just sort of hang in there. So lots of greens, lots of rusts, all kinds of different kind of fun things that I'm sort of playing with for the structure itself. Curiously, if you didn't know, if you look at a movie called The French Connection, there was a great chase through Chicago, or was it New York? I think it might have been New York, but they have them in Chicago too. The old sort of late 30s and 40s where they had a lot of the trains up on bridges and up on pedestals and posts. And a lot of the ideas we got for the construction of these wonderful columns came from exactly that. They were from the old train bridges, and that's where this sort of came from. And it's always great fun to reference all of this stuff. So let's sort of talk briefly about the lighting, and then in our next update, I will have started to tackle that. Now I've got a few issues here that are fit issues that I'm working on. So forgive me for that. But what I wanted to do was quickly just see if I couldn't put this together for you, because I wanted to talk briefly about how we're going to tackle the time rotor effect, and this is that. So what Randy has given me is a programmed board here that allows me to get a 5 mil in the top and a 5 mil in the bottom of this. Let me be cheeky here and see if I can't sort of run it up through. If I can run it up through, I think I can. Sorry that none of this was rehearsed, guys. I apologize, but sometimes it's fun just to sort of hang and do these, do these things together. So what I wanted was a pulsing action that would allow us to sort of create the illusion of there we go. And let's put this here. Nice. And we'll gently put that down. Come on, behave. All right. Not looking its smartest at the moment, but you'll get the idea. So he's given me a 9-volt system that drops to 5 volts for this effect. Let me turn these lights off here, and we can see. Let me see if I can't get this a little squarer. There we go. So you can see that this is really. Let me kill the overhead lights for a second here, so that we can all kind of take a good look at this. So this is the pulsing effect that we've come up with, and I'm really happy with it. I'll get you up close and personal here on PhilCam. Now we can certainly, if we wanted to, adjust this for speed, but I sort of, one of these things is when you light these kits, I really go back and I don't know, I just don't turn them on. So I think it's fun to kind of put it all together, but at the end of the day, could you have this on various speeds? Absolutely. You certainly could, and that would be fun. But this effect is working really well, so I'm really happy with it. I hope it wasn't too washed out by all the light here in the studio, so I apologize for that. But I wanted to give you just a little taste of that, and so that's pretty fun. And then the other thing that Randy has kindly done is supplied me with this little thing of beauty, which is for my flashies. So let me unplug my time rotor here. Okay, that's not going anywhere. And let's get this plugged in so that you can see what we've got here. And these will just sort of come on. And that's what I like about them is they have this fire up mode, and then they go into their sequential mode, so you get them all firing at different times and randomly coming on, and I really love that effect. It's not just blink, 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 blink. It's this very kind of melodical and very kind of fun, just sort of random flashing, and then they'll go through their cycle and they'll start to speed up and then they'll slow down. So it's never the same thing, and I think that really gives it that sort of that fun richness. And so the only other thing I'll be running is my scanner, which is just a little 3mm white light that I've put in a box inside the scanner itself. And I can show you that here. Let me unplug this board, and I'll plug this one in for you. And we can see the scanner all lit up there. You can see it says entering temporal orbit. It's great fun. So and that just sort of stays on. I didn't see a lot of the scanner in the movie, but it, obviously in the third act it played quite significantly. So these are all the elements that are slowly coming together. What happens now is very complicated, I should say, because I have got my, and I'll pull one out for you just so that you can see it, but I've got my, oh, of course, it doesn't want to cooperate. Why should it? I've got all of my clear parts for my control surfaces, which, as you may or may not recall, I produced in clear resin. And so what I've got to do now is I've got to, obviously they've got to be broken off the trees. We've got to figure out where they belong on the console, because that is important. And then we'll decide which things are being lit and which aren't. And so then we'll break those off the trees, and then we'll figure out how we're going to get light to them. I do not have a lot of room in this console. I did talk to Jeff about that, and he did send me a file for a separate console, which I actually started to print. Here it is. And essentially what it is it's all the individual panels and a cap. And Jeff, you're going to be, I hope you're not mad at me. I'm not going to use this. And there's a couple of reasons why. Mostly because I don't want to go through all of cleaning up all the seams to put this back. Even if it was a nice tight fit, I just like the way the resin console looks as a solid piece. And I'm never going to get it that clean with puttying and sanding. So I'm going to stick with the original plan, which is to use my resin console. And much to Randy's chagrin, I'm probably going to use some fiber optics in this as well. How I get all of that crammed into a very small space at this point, I have no idea. Additionally, I don't have a lot of room under the base for my boards. I'll make it work, but it's going to be tight, and it may well mean that I have to actually raise my platform just a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to sort of figure that all out. But lots to do. As you can see, this is really coming together. Believe it or not, it's been quite a few hours of work just to kind of get it to this shape. Now it's a lot of detail work, getting it all sort of puttied and painted, and I'm going to do a lot of dry brushing, a lot of stippling, but we'll sort of get it there. And it is meant to be this kind of crude thing, so that's why I've taken a lot of time and energy to kind of use this Metal Effects oxidizing paint and really play with textures. I may even do a little more. There's a Rust-Oleum product called Sculpt, and it's a very thick, it looks like a very thick cream in a jar, and that might be fun to use for some of the patching. I don't know. So there we are. That is the update of the 8th Doctor's console. And we are just continuing to plow along. I hope this has been enjoyable. Thank you for sharing some time with me. Next time you see us, we should all be kind of wired up and in the final stages of cleanup and presentation. Because I don't think there's much more to really talk about in terms of strategy on how this goes together. Now it's just a lot of labor to sort of get it to where it needs to be. But a lot of fun. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. As always, please be safe, be well, build something, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.